It had been a blustery day for the railway. The Fat Controller decided to close the railway early due to the bad weather. The engines were waiting to leave when Thomas said, "To pass the time, someone should tell a story." "I have the perfect story," said James, and this is the story he told. Once there was a little blue engine who was always eager to help. But one evening the station master said, "Little blue engine, could you go and pick up a coach that has been left in the middle of the line?" "Of course," said the little blue engine, and he puffed away. But the fog thickened, and the little blue engine had to stay in an old abandoned shed for the night. But that night, the little blue engine heard strange noises in that shed. The little blue engine ran away that very night. "Then what happened?" asked Percy timidly. "That's it," said James. "No one ever heard from that little blue engine ever again." Soon the engines were on their way home. "I'm scared," said Percy. "Don't be a scaredy engine," said Thomas. "That story wasn't real." Later that evening, all the engines were asleep. Except for James. He was going to play a trick on Percy. He returned with a freight car full of scrap metal. James couldn't stop laughing, and Percy felt foolish. "It's okay," said Henry. "Sometimes good imaginations just think bad thoughts." Later that night, all was quiet again. "Stop it, James," moaned Thomas. "No one's falling for your tricks again." But James was asleep. Thomas became concerned. Maybe there is really a monster around here, he thought, and he stayed up all night just to make sure. The next morning, Thomas sleepily woke up and puffed away from the sheds. He met Percy at the harbor. "So, Percy, hear any strange noises last night?" "Not after James's silly prank," replied Percy. Now Thomas felt foolish for having stayed up all night. Later on, Thomas puffed into Knapford Station. "Gee, Thomas, you look like you could use some special coal." "Oh, I'm just a little tired," said Thomas. "What's wrong?" asked James. "Scary monsters keep you up all night?" And he ran away laughing. That evening, Thomas barely had enough puff to make it back to the sheds. The others were telling ghost stories again, but Thomas just puffed straight past them toward Tidmouth. He was much too tired to think anyway. That night, Thomas still couldn't sleep. He was afraid of the monster that he thought was lurking around his shed. "Oh, what's that? Who's there?" Thomas was scared. Even behind the closed door of Tidmouth's sheds, he still felt like he was in danger. That's nothing, I hope. I mean, it's probably pretty windy outside, I think. Then, right in front of Thomas, two strange glowing eyes glared. Thomas had tried to keep it in, but he couldn't anymore. Everyone woke up with a start. "Help!" cried Thomas. "There's a monster in my shed!" Gordon looked down and laughed. "Thomas," he said, "might want to come out here and check out something." "It's not funny," said Thomas. "When you've seen it from my view it is," said Gordon. Thomas slowly puffed out. "What did I tell you?" asked Gordon. Sitting in front of Thomas was a tiny little hedgehog. "A hedgehog?" he asked. "A hedgehog is what I was afraid of all this time?" "Apparently," replied Gordon. "Percy may have a good imagination, Thomas, but I think yours might be a little better." "I think," said Thomas, "you might be right, Gordon. The only thing in the world that could change a tiny little hedgehog into a big, scary monster." And the hedgehog resting on Thomas's footplate agreed.